Today we're looking at issue 19 from the second volume of DC Comics' The Doom Patrol. This issue is especially notable for introducing readers to the Scottish writer Grant Morrison. Morrison had worked in Britain, writing for Doctor Who magazine and the British comic publisher 2000 AD, but was a fairly new name to American readers when this was released in 1988. Now, if you're a comic book collector, you'll recognize the name Grant Morrison. In recent years, he's proved to be one of the most popular writers on the scene, writing critically acclaimed runs for books like Batman, All-Star Superman, New X-Men, and Final Crisis. His popularity has, in fact, earned him his own comic book convention, Morrison Con, as well as a feature-length documentary dedicated entirely to his work. It should come as no surprise to hear that this comic book rockstar had humble beginnings. Right from page 1, you can tell Morrison isn't the kind of writer readers are used to. He crams words together, throws us metaphorical dream sequences, and foreshadows to his heart's content. This first book is titled Crawling from the Wreckage, and it is indeed an apt phrase. We're introduced to the team from square one here, hinting at a disaster that has left them in shambles. We get Robot Man, the former race car driver Cliff Steele, whose head ended up in a robot's body, and he's spending his time in a mental institution. Keep in mind this is comics, and a mental robot should come as no surprise. What does come as a surprise is Morrison's humanizing characterizations. Cliff is seen struggling with his inability to feel, and we're completely convinced that he's human, trapped in a metal cage. We're also reintroduced to the Chief, the Doom Patrol's unbalanced leader, Joshua Clay, the former member who is desperate to get out of the Doom Patrol game, and Larry Traynor, the former Hero Negative Man. Last but not least, this issue introduces character Crazy Jane, who will prove to be one of Morrison's most important characters in the run. She's introduced as a woman with over 64 different personalities, each with its own superpower. She's clearly tailor-made to get Robot Man out of his self-pitying funk, and the two strike up quite an unusual romance. It's really very striking to see how Morrison weaves important messages of friendship and acceptance throughout his colorful, poetic captions and completely bizarre storylines. From this seed of an issue grows a magnificent story tapestry, including everything from surrealism to Charles Atlas. Morrison's Doom Patrol gives readers an early taste of themes he'd incorporate in later works and shows just how intellectual a comic book medium can be. He would continue to write the series until issue 63. His run has been called everything from a masterpiece to completely inaccessible, but critics usually agree at the very least it's ambitious and artistic. Seeing how his popularity has skyrocketed recently, this issue has been marked particularly important as something of a marker pointing to the turn in modern comics to a more sophisticated nature, much in the same vein as Alan Moore's Watchmen or Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns. Now, by attaining importance and sentimentality from the comic collecting community, and Morrison fans in particular, one might assume that this issue is an amazing essential read. I mean, subjectively speaking, I love the heck out of this book, but I decided to run a test. I gave this issue to Emily, who has little to no experience with comic books, to see what the average person thinks of my professed literary landmark. I wanted to know if my love for the medium was forcing me to consider this a good comic book, or if it held up as a great piece of fiction without encyclopedic nerd knowledge. Here's what she had to say.
I'm coming at this comic from a literary perspective as like a high school English teacher. So the thing that I noticed about the narrative is that it doesn't operate in like a linear sequential kind of format. I felt like I was just sort of thrown into events that were already in motion and things that were already happening. My favorite character is actually the guy on the cover. What is his name? Robot Man, Cliff Steele, I think. He's sort of exploring the issue of how to be a human while being so dehumanized and having so much of his identity as a human being stripped of him. He's talking to the guy, Will Magnus, who created the Robot Men or whatever. He still feels the urge to, have bowel movements, but obviously he doesn't have bowels, and like he looks at a woman and desires her, and he can never have that kind of intimacy or intimate relationship, which to me was just so upsetting. That was like the moment in the comic where I was like, oh, yeah, I totally would. I'm not really as interested in some of the other characters as I am him. Although I do really want to know what the deal is with the that black flaming guy who doesn't seem to have a specific entity, and he wants to do some sort of alchemical marriage. I would really like to know what that's all about.